Before I tell you who I am, before I tell you what I do, I want to tell you something that I genuinely believe. I don't think that you need another diet. I don't think you need another training plan. And I definitely don't think that you need more motivation. I think you've been trying to solve the wrong problem because over the last few years, after coaching hundreds of ordinary people, I've noticed something. So the people who completely transform their lives don't start with better discipline. They don't suddenly wake up overflowing with motivation, and they certainly don't find the perfect diet. They become a different person, or more accurately, they start believing that they're a different person, and everything else follows from there. And that's what this webinar is really about. So it's not about running, it's not about weight loss, it's about identity, because once you genuinely start seeing yourself as a runner, running stops being something that you occasionally do and it just becomes part of who you are. And once that changes, everything else starts lining up behind it. But we'll come back to that. First, let's talk about why so many people get stuck, because if you're watching this, there's a good chance that you've been here before. So you decide that this time will be different. You buy new trainers, you download the Couch to 5K app, you join a gym, you promise yourself that you'll start on Monday. Maybe you even do brilliantly for a few weeks. Then life happens. So work gets busy, the kids need you, you get ill, you miss a couple of runs, the healthy eating slips, and before you know it, you're right back to where you started again. And most people think that that's where they failed. I don't. In fact, I don't think that's your fault at all. I think you've been following advice that was almost designed to make you blame yourself, because every time another diet fails, who gets blamed? You do. Not the diet, not the approach, not the unrealistic expectations. You tell yourself you're lazy. You tell yourself that you've got no willpower. You tell yourself that you're the problem. And after hearing that story often enough, you start believing it. And that's the real damage. It's not the weight, it's the belief. Because people who believe that they're lazy end up stop trying. And people who believe that they're failures just expect to fail. And people who believe that they're just not runners never give themselves permission to become one. And that's the lie that I want to challenge today, because somewhere along the way, running became something that's just exclusive. Something that's just reserved for slim people, fast people, people wearing expensive watches, people who know exactly what they're doing. And everyone else, they're just trying. And I couldn't disagree more. Here's what I believe. So you don't become a runner because you run your first marathon. You don't become a runner because you finally run 5K without stopping. You don't become a runner because you've lost 2 stone. You become a runner the moment that you decide that that's who you are. And then you prove it to yourself one run at a time. So every run is a vote for the person that you're becoming. Every walk run counts. Every slow mile counts. Every time you lace up your trainers when you don't really feel like it, you're casting another vote. Not for a finish time, for your identity. And this is where I believe the fitness industry has got things completely stuck. So we've been taught to chase behaviours, to eat better, to exercise more, to count your calories, find more motivation, try harder. But behaviours don't last unless they match your identity. And that's why people spend years saying, I need to be more disciplined. I don't think discipline is what they're missing. I think they're missing an identity that they can live up to. And that's why I call my whole approach becoming a runner. And it's not because everyone watching this needs to become obsessed with running, not because everyone needs to run marathons, but because becoming a runner changes far more than your fitness. It changes how you think, how you eat, how you spend your weekends, how you respond when life gets busy, how quickly you bounce back after a bad week. It changes the story that you tell yourself. And once that story changes, everything else becomes easier. Notice I didn't say effortless, I said easier, because runners still have bad weeks. Runners still miss sessions. Runners still eat pizza. But the difference is they don't stop being runners because of one bad day. And that's exactly why they keep moving forwards. So the answer isn't another diet. The answer isn't more motivation. The answer isn't trying harder. The answer is becoming a runner. And that's what I'd love to help you to do. And once I explain why I care so much about this, I think it'll make complete sense. So let me properly introduce myself. So who am I? So my name's Adam Barsky and I'm a personal trainer, a running coach and a nutrition coach. But if I'm being honest, those job titles don't really explain what I do, because I don't think that my job is to give people running plans. There's thousands of running plans online. I don't think my job is to hand out another meal plan. Again, the internet is full of those as well. So my job is to help ordinary people become the sort of person who doesn't need to keep starting again every single Monday. Because once that changes, the running plan then finally works. The nutrition finally sticks. And ultimately the confidence starts growing. And I've seen it happen over and over again. So people join me and they're convinced that they need to lose weight. And then 6 months later, they're talking about entering races. They're running with friends. They're getting up early because they actually want to go for a run. And they're making better food choices without feeling like they're constantly on a diet. And that's not because I forced them to do it. It's because they're living differently. And I guess that's why I love running so much. Not because it's the only way to get fit. In fact, far from it. I love it because I've never found anything that changes how people see themselves quite like running does. I've watched people who couldn't run for 30 seconds cross half marathon finish lines. I've watched people who apologise for being too slow become the ones that are encouraging others. And I've watched people lose 4, 5, even 6 stone. But if I'm being honest, the biggest transformation was never the number on the scales. It was the smile on the face. It was the confidence. It was the belief. And that's what keeps me doing this. Now, here's something that I've learned that completely changes how I coach. So most people think that motivation comes first. I don't believe it does. So motivation comes and it goes. And if your entire plan relies on feeling motivated, you're in trouble before you've even started. Whereas purpose is a little bit different. So purpose gets you out of bed when motivation stays under the duvet. So purpose gets you through the rainy runs. Purpose gets you out the door after a stressful day at work. Purpose gives difficult runs a reason. And that's why one of the first conversations I have with every client isn't how fast you want to run. It's what would make you unbelievably proud of yourself. For some people, that's their first ever 5K. For someone else, it might be Race for Life. For somebody else, it's finally saying yes when a friend asks them to do park run. For others, it's a 10K, a half marathon, even a marathon. And the distance doesn't really matter either, so the meaning does. So because when you've got something to work towards, every Tuesday night run means something. Every strength session means something. Every healthier meal means something. You're no longer exercising just to burn calories. You're becoming the sort of person who finishes what they've started. And that's a completely different mindset. So one of the biggest mistakes that I think the fitness industry has made is reducing exercise to calorie burning, as if the only reason to move your body is to earn your dinner. I couldn't disagree more. So running isn't punishment for what you ate yesterday. Food isn't something that you have to earn. That's another lie that keeps people trapped. Exercise builds your body. Food fuels it. The teammates, they're not enemies. So when people stop fighting food and they start fueling the runner that they're becoming, everything changes. So the healthy choices become easier, not because you've suddenly got more willpower, because they make sense. So when you're training for something that you're proud of, you naturally start asking yourself, will this help me become the runner that I want to be? And that's a very different question from, am I allowed to eat this? So one comes from guilt, whereas the other comes from identity. And identity nearly always wins. So let me show you exactly what I mean. So I want to tell you about one of my clients. So his name is Ziggy. So Ziggy first got in touch with me because he wanted to lose weight. And if I'm honest, that isn't really unusual. So most people don't come to me saying, Adam, I want to become a runner. They come saying, I've had enough. I don't recognise myself anymore. I get out of breath walking upstairs. I don't like what I see in the mirror. I've tried everything. And that was Ziggy. So Ziggy had spent so many years doing what so many people do. Starting, stopping, starting again. Promised himself that Monday would be different. Lose a bit of weight, put it back on. Every time his confidence took another hit. And every time he blamed himself. And when we first started working together, he weighed around about 107 kilograms. He wasn't lazy, he wasn't weak, he wasn't lacking discipline. He'd simply been trying to solve the wrong problem. So I didn't start by putting him on another restrictive diet. I didn't tell him to cut out all the foods that he enjoyed. I didn't make him earn his meals by running them off. Instead, we focused on just becoming a runner. So we gave him a simple running plan that matched where he was, not where he wished he was. So we built his nutrition around eating more real food, getting enough protein and fueling his training instead of constantly feeling guilty about what he'd eaten. And most importantly, we gave him a reason to keep showing up. So not because he had to, because every run was another vote for the person that he was becoming. So at first, nothing looked particularly amazing. He wasn't suddenly flying around doing 5k runs. The scales didn't just fall overnight. So there weren't any miracle weeks, just small decisions. One run, then another, one better meal, then another, one conversation when his confidence dipped a little bit, and then another. And that's what coaching really is. It's easy to stick to a plan when life is going well. The real value of coaching is what happens when life isn't going so well, when motivation disappears, when work gets busy, when you miss a run, when you think that you've blown it because you had a takeaway on a Friday night. So that's when people normally disappear. And that's where I step in. So sometimes my job isn't to write a better running plan. Sometimes it's simply to remind someone you haven't failed, you're just having a bad week. And there's a big difference. So little by little, something started changing, and Ziggy stopped introducing himself as someone who was trying to lose weight, and he became somebody who ran. He joined my running club, he started looking forward to training, and he started entering races. So he wasn't waiting until he'd lost the weight to feel like a runner anymore. He already was one. And here's the really interesting part. The weight loss almost became a side effect. And it's not because we obsessed over calories, not because we punished him with endless cardio. And it was because his lifestyle had changed and the choices that he made every day were different because the person that he believed he was had changed. Today he's lost just over 20 kilograms. He's gone from running a 5k in over 33 minutes to comfortably running it in around 24 minutes. But if you ask me what I'm most proud of, it wouldn't be the weight that he's lost. It wouldn't be the PB that he's got. It'd be the confidence that he's gained. Because the man that I coach today isn't just lighter, he's happier. He backs himself. He believes that he can do hard things. And that is worth so much more than any number on a set of scales. And I'd much rather you hear that from Ziggy himself. So have a little listen to what Ziggy's got to say.
Hi there, my name is Ziggy and I've been working with Adam for 3 months now. The reason I got in contact with Adam was the fact that I was being very unhealthy. I was eating a lot of junk food and my fitness went downwards and I wasn't happy with the way I was looking because I was just putting weight on. My clothes were stopped not fitting and it made me really doubt myself. It wasn't helping with my mental health. So I was just scrolling through Instagram one day and I come across Adam's page, and the thing with his posts, with his reels, it was relating to me. So I just one day just got in contact with him and got a call in and basically just tell him how I felt, and it went well from there. What I was struggling with is, the big one is food. Obviously I wasn't eating well. I was eating a lot of junk food, which obviously not good for me, and I was being unfit. I wasn't exercising regularly. So one example is, like, I would try to start the gym one week, I was doing really well, and then say something came up for the following week, I would just stop and then I would never go back to it. So I wasn't being consistent with the gym. Or when I wanted to start running, I would run like once or twice a week, and then say something come up again, I just never went back to it. So it was big struggles. It was like it was a massive circle. I was never getting out of the loop, and I could see the weight just piling up. And like you say, with any doubts, with any PT or anything you go to, your first impression is down to their social media. So you see all these great things on the social media, you get, say you pay the money and all that stuff, and then you actually get into the real thing and you're like, this is a waste of money, it doesn't really help me and stuff like that. A good thing with Adam is that he does a free 30-minute call. So I went into a free 30-minute call with him. I just told him how I felt, what I want out of this, and so he would make me a plan. He would send me over the plan, no pushy or anything like that. I never pushed anyone. He just make you a plan, and basically I looked at that plan for myself and I thought, this plan's going to work for me. I was happy with it, and look where we are now. Like, it gives you nutrition ideas, it gives you meal ideas. He's always there for you. So saying you had a really bad day or you've had a bad run or something like that, you can just easily just message him, and he gives you that kind of reassurance. It really helps. Like, you've always got someone there to help you out. Since then, obviously, from 3 months ago to now, my food approach is completely different. Obviously, I'm eating a lot more protein, you know, eating home food. I'm not going to this junk food stuff anymore. Obviously, I'll still have a cheat day now and then. I'm just prioritising a lot of protein in all my meals. Since started 3 months ago, my original 5k time was 33:25. From yesterday, it's gone down to 24:20, so my running has massively improved. It's given me a massive confidence boost. The weight I started at was 107 kilos, so it's the heaviest I've ever been, and now I'm down to the lowest I've ever been in the last couple of years, to 86 kilo. There's still a lot to go through, you know. This is just the start, in my opinion, of the journey. I feel a lot more confident now. Like, I can go out running, I feel confident, I'm not out of breath or anything, but the appearance, you know, I've gone 2 sizes down in clothing, so obviously you can see a difference. So if anyone out there is looking at Adam, honestly, just go for it. Like I say, I look back 3 months ago and I'm happy I've gone for it. Like I said earlier in this video, he does a free 30-minute call. So honestly, just do that 30-minute call. Just tell him how you feel. What do you want out of this kind of, you know, experience and stuff like that. He'll make your plan based on that. If you're happy with it, you go ahead. If you're not happy, you just tell him. The thing is, he's not pushy or anything like that. He's just there to help you. And he just tells you what kind of resources he has, what he can do for you.
So I love that testimonial, because most people notice the transformation on the outside, whereas I noticed what happened on the inside. So the confidence, the belief, the identity shift, that's the becoming a runner approach in action. And once you start looking for it, you can begin to see the same pattern over and over again. So let me introduce you to Jan. So Jan's story is completely different. So she didn't come to me because she wanted to run a marathon. She came to me because somewhere along the way, she'd just lost her confidence. And she'd actually been to another running group before. And instead of feeling encouraged, she came away feeling like she didn't belong. So she felt judged. She felt like everyone else was a real runner and she was just pretending. And sadly, I do hear that more often than I'd like to. Because people think that running clubs are only for fast runners, that everyone's looking at them, that they'll hold everybody up. But can I let you into a little secret? Almost nobody is looking at you. They're too busy worrying about themselves, and the runners who are worth running with remember exactly what it felt like to be a beginner. The problem wasn't Jan's fitness, it was the story that she'd started telling herself. She started telling herself, I'm not a runner, I'm too slow, I'll never be like everybody else. And the fitness industry loves talking about mindset, but here's what I think that they get wrong. So they tell people to think positively. I don't. I think positive thinking without action disappears the moment that life gets hard. So instead, we gave Jan evidence. So every completed run became proof. Every week that she showed up became proof. Every conversation when she realised that she wasn't the only one feeling like that became proof. And little by little, the story that she'd been telling herself, it started changing. And it's not because I convinced her, it's because that she convinced herself. And that's much more powerful. And here's something that I've learned after coaching hundreds of people. So confidence doesn't come before action. Confidence comes because of action. So you don't wake up one morning feeling confident enough to go to a running club. You go, you survive it, and then you realise that it wasn't nearly as scary as your brain told you it would be. And then your confidence grows. And that's exactly why I believe waiting until that you feel confident is one of the biggest traps that people fall into. So if you wait until you feel ready, you'll probably be waiting forever. So confidence is earned, one small promise to yourself at a time. Anyway, have a listen now to what Jan had to say.
My name's Jan and I'm a member of the wonderful group run by Adam. I came across Adam via Instagram and saw one of his reels and was really taken by the advice that he was giving, and also it really resonated with me in terms of the struggles that I am currently facing in my running journey. I used to be a regular runner and then unfortunately had a very negative experience with my local running club, which really knocked my confidence in a way that I could never imagine. So I think the element of feeling a bit like a fraud really, and not being a runner, and I gave up running, even though I enjoyed it. And as I say, I came across Adam and his posts were amazing. So I contacted him and we had a one-to-one session, and I really felt for the first time in a long time that there was somebody out there that understood where I was coming from, sort of mentally, in terms of me feeling like a fraud, me feeling not like a runner, me feeling that running wasn't for me. I now feel that actually I can be a runner, and I'm not fraud. I am now sort of running a lot more regularly. I really feel that I'm not alone. I think that's the word I'm looking for. I'm not alone in terms of this running journey. Adam's sort of one-to-ones, the group, Adam's podcasts are amazing. You know, they are to the point and do really resonate with me. Because I feel more than anything it was the mental aspect I really struggled with, and he has helped me enormously. So I'd like to say thank you very much, Adam. For the first time in over 2 years, 2.5 years, I finally feel like I belong. If you're thinking about contacting Adam, or if any of his reels on Instagram have resonated with you, just book the call, book the free call that he's offering, because I can assure you it will change your life.
So I love that story because it reminds me that coaching isn't just about helping people run further. Sometimes it's about helping someone believe that they belong. And once they believe that they belong, everything else starts changing. So Joanne's story starts somewhere completely different. So Joanne didn't think that she was a runner either. In fact, when she first started, running for a minute felt hard. So she'd use these short run-walk intervals. So 1 minute running, 1 minute walking. And honestly, that's exactly where I wanted her to start. Because one of the biggest lies in running is that walking means that you've failed. It doesn't. So walking is a training tool. It's how thousands of people successfully build towards running 5Ks, 10Ks and half marathons. So the only people who look down on walk breaks are usually the people who've forgotten what it felt like to start. Week after week, Joanne trusted the process. Not because every run that she did felt amazing. Some didn't. She had weeks where she doubted herself. Weeks where the weather was awful. She had weeks where she questioned whether she was making any progress at all. But she kept turning up. Not perfectly, just consistently enough. And there's an important difference there. And every few weeks we stretch things a little bit further. So 90 seconds running, then 2 minutes, then longer again. And before long, she wasn't worrying about running for a minute anymore. She was running 5Ks, then 10Ks. And currently we're up to 12K with her. And here's the beautiful part. So she never suddenly became a runner one Saturday morning. She became a runner gradually. So every time that she proved to herself that she could do something that she once thought was impossible. And today she talks about her runs very differently. So she carries herself differently and she believes in herself differently. Yes, she's fitter. Yes, she's healthier. Yes, she's lost weight, but that's not the biggest transformation. The biggest transformation is that she now sees herself as someone who runs, and that's identity. That's becoming a runner. So anyway, let's hear what Joanne has to say.
Everyone, I thought I'd come on here and tell you my journey of how it all started. I was overweight. I was 18 stone. So how am I going to run for a minute when I can't even run 30 seconds? I also got asked if I would want to do the Great North Run. And at the time I was like, yeah, of course I will. Yeah, I can do that. Bearing in mind I'd never run more than 5k in my life. So I took on the challenge, but the winter set in and yeah, January, February come. And I was starting to panic, thinking, I can't even run 5k. So I decided to try and get myself out. I'd run 3 or 4k, but I'd be trying to run it flat out, totally overexhausted myself, was so tired, and I was starting to dislike the running. Now, during that time, I'd often see videos popping up from Adam and his motivation and what he spoke. The words that he spoke just seemed to sit with me, and I thought, do you know what, this guy talks sense. So I decided to book a slot. We had a good half an hour's conversation, told him exactly what goals I wanted to achieve, how I wanted to get around the Great North Run within 3 hours. Yeah, I'd never ran more than 5k. And the one good thing about Adam is he listens to you and he helps you get there. I am only 7 weeks into the programme, but I've ran over 115k. I've got a number of personal bests. This weekend I did my personal best for 5k yesterday, and I had another personal best for 10k today. We've built it up, and here I am, 7 weeks in, 10 weeks to go to the Great North Run, and I absolutely think, not only am I thinking I can actually get round this Great North Run, but I'm actually thinking I'm going to do it well within 3 hours. We have Zoom calls, we all check in once a week and find out how everyone's week's going. And for me, that's brilliant. Because at the end of the day, you're going to go out and you're going to run, but you've got to run that process yourself. No one else can do it for you, but the support and the praise, you know, for me, someone checking in with you and telling you that's a job well done means the world. So what I would do if I was you, I'd give Adam a call or book in a slot with him and just see what he's got to offer. And if running is what you want to do and you want to build that up, make friends in the process, then give him a try. You won't be disappointed. If I could go back 8 weeks, what would I say to myself? Trust the process, get on board, and it will change your life.
So when you look at Ziggy, Jan and Joanne, 3 completely different people, 3 completely different starting points, 3 completely different goals, but exactly the same pattern. None of them waited until they felt ready. None of them waited until they were confident. None of them waited until they'd lost the weight. They became runners first and everything else followed. And that's exactly what I'd love to help you to do as well. So if you've watched this far, I'm guessing at least some part of my story or Ziggy's story or Jan's story or Joanne's story has resonated with you in some way. So maybe you've seen yourself in a bit of all of them, and hopefully you'll understand why I keep coming back to the same message. The answer isn't another diet. The answer isn't another training plan. The answer isn't more motivation. The answer is just to become a runner. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Adam, can't I just download a running plan? And yeah, absolutely. There's some brilliant running plans out there. You could download Couch to 5K. You could buy a training app. The plan probably isn't what's missing. Most people already know that they should be moving more, eating more protein, eating more whole foods, sleeping a little bit better, drinking more water. The problem usually isn't knowledge. So the problem is trying to apply that knowledge when real life gets in the way. And that's where coaching changes everything, because when life gets busy, the plan will adapt. When you lose confidence, you've got someone reminding you how far you've already come. When you miss a week, you don't feel like you've failed. You know exactly how to get moving again. When you pick up a little niggle, you don't panic. We adapt. When you're celebrating a new PB, I'm celebrating it with you. And that's what coaching really is. It's not somebody shouting at you. It's not someone judging you. It's having someone in your corner who genuinely wants you to succeed. Someone who's walked hundreds of people through exactly the same journey that you're about to start. And that's what I'd love to be for you. So here's exactly how we begin. So I don't ask anyone to commit to 6 months or a year. I want you to experience coaching first. And that's why everything starts with a 4-week program. So the investment for that is £120. And during those 4 weeks, you'll receive a personalised running plan built around your current fitness, your goals and your lifestyle. You'll receive practical nutrition coaching based around real food, plenty of protein and habits that you can actually sustain, not just another restrictive diet. So we'll have 2 one-to-one coaching calls so that we can celebrate your progress, solve any problems and adjust the plan as you improve. So you'll have WhatsApp support in between calls, because questions don't only sort of appear once a fortnight. So if you have a question, don't feel like you have to wait until that call to ask me it. So you'll also get access to my nutrition hub and the wider community of people who are working towards the exact same thing, ordinary people becoming runners. And at the end of the 4 weeks, if you're loving it and you want to carry on, brilliant. We'll continue working together on a simple monthly coaching plan. Or if you decide it isn't for you, that's absolutely fine too. There's no pressure. I'd much rather somebody join because they're excited, not because they felt pushed into it. So the next step is really simple. Just book a free 30-minute training and nutrition review and we'll have a chat. So that'll give me the opportunity to learn a little bit more about you. So what your goals are, what your previous experience is, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and more importantly, what's been getting in your way. And by the end of that call, you'll leave with a clearer plan than when you arrived. And if we both feel that we're a good fit, brilliant. If we don't, you still leave with advice that I genuinely hope helps you. Because whether we work together or not, I want more people to experience what running has given me and so many of my clients. Not just a healthier body, a stronger mind, more confidence, a reason to be proud of themselves again. So I said right at the beginning that this webinar wasn't really about running, and I meant it. It's about changing the story that you tell yourself. Because the person who finishes a half marathon, the person who loses 4 stone, The person who confidently turns up to a running club, they're not different because they got lucky. They're different because somewhere along the way, they stopped asking themselves, can I do this? And they started saying, I'm a runner, and everything else followed. So if that's the person that you want to become, I'd love to help you get there. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I genuinely hope that I'll be hearing your story very soon.